ended the conversation at the last viewing and at talking about how are we going to start from moving from these conversations and putting things into action. So one of the things I wanted to do is I asked Inez Pegans, who is a retired teacher and a community activist and a member of African American Alliance. I told she'd know about the Voices of Women of Color, and I told her that we were going to be looking specifically at the women of color who would be running and figuring out a way that trying to figure out amongst ourselves how would we support them and what would that support look like, given the fact that we agreed that we're going to put together an agenda of women of color that will look to make sure that we have a voice in these certain spaces and in certain positions of power and elected officials and so forth. So I wanted to just kind of, as a means of introducing Inez Pegans, she has a very lengthy resume, and I'm really interested in the part that says she's a retired teacher and a community activist, and so I just want to give everybody a little background and open up the dialogue or any questions, and if I know anything about her, I'll elaborate if I haven't clarified that. So some of her highlights are she's been in the Hartford Public School System for 37 years. She's certified to teach math, science, history, and social studies at the elementary, middle, and high school level. She has 23 years of community service. She's a Hartford resident. She lives on Flatbush Avenue. She's at African American Alliance every Saturday. I don't need to look at this to say that. She's actually the secretary for that organization, and so she takes all of their notes. She has her education is from Eastern Connecticut State University, University of Hartford, City of Hartford Public School System. She had, I guess, did some certificate work there. Her professional services is she's a former assessor for the Beginning Educator Support and Training Program, BEST, Union Building Representative. She volunteers for NAACP, elected executive board member. She's the co-chair of the education committee there and the assistant secretary. She's, like I stated, the co-chair education committee as well at Greater Hartford African American Alliance. The president of the City of Hartford Civilian Police Review Board. The president of the American Federation of Teachers, the Black Caucus. And also in '89, she had been the president of Hartford Areas Rally Together. So Inez had been very, very involved. I was very disappointed to find that she hadn't been nominated. There was some opportunities where we had actually black men who had a chance to nominate her.
African American Alliance.
Yeah, and and so we want to put that out there because people have to be held accountable. And chairman, it's already public information because the chairman, Clark King, made it known how unhappy he was. Also, we have, as you all know, I talked about that I have an academy called Organized Leadership Academy. One of the first classes I taught well, you were in it, but one of the women, Mary Story, who was a FRA at Fox, come out of my camp. I'm proud to say that. She will be running on a parent slate. Big up to the PTO. They put together a slate of parents. Now Millie's on vacation. She was gonna come, and but she couldn't, and so we're gonna allow. And I hope the Voices of Women of Color can agree on this. But I think, you know, given that we have we have quite a few women of color who's looking at different positions, we should invite them and kind of talk to them and hear from them directly. So Millie told me, and you know, when she comes back, we'll arrange that. So, but Mary Story, I can't remember the other names, but Mary Story comes out of my camp. She's dedicated, hardworking, a parent, and will be, if the group can agree, I hope we can, because we only could do stuff that we agree on, but I hope we would look to support Mary Story. And last but not least, this is going to be interesting. Naisha McCauley, who's here, has been nominated from the Republican Party And why is that interesting? It's interesting because if in fact we're going to say that there are black women with different voices, then we have to recognize there are black women with different politics too. And we embrace all parties here: independent, Green Party, Working Family Party, Republicans, Democrats. We don't look at the party, we look at the individual and how they interact with the community, and if they will be able to push the community in which the community agenda in which the community set. So I'm pleased to offer Nyesha, and we're going to hear from her and some of her background and education. I'll let her do that herself. But these are our candidates, and I say our candidates intentionally because these are women of color. I'm hoping we get some Latino women and some Asian women that would take a stab at some of this too. And if any names come up, please let us know so we can begin to talk to them as well. But so far as it stands, we've been looking at Inez, Mary Story, and Nyesha.
Hello, my name is Kayla Williams. I go to Central Connecticut University. I am going into my senior year. I major in psychology and plan on getting my master's.
And you're on the dean's list.
And I'm on the dean's list.
Okay.
And I'm Pamela Selders. I lived in Hartford for about a decade now, and I'm happy to be a part of this conversation and voices of women of color.
Hi, my name is Tamara Blake. I am a resident of Hartford for about 20 years. I am a property manager and a mother of 3.
Hi, my name is Shelley Thompson. I'm a resident of Hartford for nearly 50 years. I'm a grandmother.
Hi, my name is Damika Horton. I am a resident of Hartford for all my life, so 30-something years. And I am Janice's sister, so that's my introduction.
Hi, I'm Tracy Walker. I'm a member of Blue Hill Civic Association. I work there as a housing specialist. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Carla Williams. I am one of the leaders at Blue Hill Civic Association, and I have been appointed to be the outreach person for the Northeast Side for the Clean Water Project of MDC.
Nyesha McCauley, lifelong Hartford resident, and happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Beatrice Horton, also Janice's swimming sister. I am a lifetime resident of Hartford.
Hi, my name is Marquita, and I'm a private citizen.
Okay. I think she wanted to clarify that because, you know, last time, you private citizen. Great.
Citizen.
She said,
that's
okay.
all you got to know about me. I'm a private citizen.
That's wonderful. So, let's talk about women of color in politics. Nyesha, let's start with you. Maybe other people don't know, but I know how much work you've done in education and your involvement in PTO and your book stories online that you read to the kids. And so can we hear directly from you and kind of talk about how you were nominated from the Republican Party as one of the candidates to be considered for a seat on the Board of Education?
I have been very involved in education. I have 2 boys who have gone through and still are in the Hartford school system. My oldest son graduated from Hartford High, where I was the PTO president there. And I actually, believe it or not, under the leadership of Hyacinth Yemi. Because you know Hyacinth is a fixture at Hartford High. Yes. Because her children went there too. But I'm also an alum of Hartford High. I graduated in '92 from Hartford High. So, you know, it was interesting going back there. A lot of the same people are still there that was there when I was there. But my son graduated from Hartford High in 2007, and so I was the PTO president. I was a member of the PTO, but then became president for I think 2 years. I was president over there. But also, and one of the things that I just want to point out about my leadership role and wanting to run for the Board of Education, and I kind of feel that I'm what the politicals are trying to nurture. And what I mean by that is I've done all the things that they tell you you're supposed to do. I graduated from a Leadership Hartford, Leadership Greater Hartford parent leadership class. Yes. You know, I've also been a part of another, the Connecticut Parents. I graduated from a program that they have. You know, I've been the PTO president. I've been the parent volunteer. You know, all those things that they tell you that you're supposed to do. And so now I want to step out into that role, because I'm going to say, now here's what you're saying that we should do. Now let's see if you really support what it is that you're telling parents that they need to do. Because I've seen that so much where you know, parents, they tell people, and I'm talking about the political elite and leadership in Hartford, they tell you that, you know, well, parents need to do this and parents need to do that, and so now I'm doing it. So are you going to support what it is that you're talking about? So
And when you say support, who are you talking to? Like when you say who, if you're going to support, you know,
a parent stepping up to the plate and actually taking a leadership role. And I've had this conversation with people who organize parents and put these parents together, and you know, that's the support has to be all the way through to the end. If this is what you want to do,
financial means, training, making sure they have the right policy so that the parents can do what they need to do.
No. See, now that I've decided to run, am I gonna be supported?
Oh, yes.
By the same people
exactly.
who train.
And that's what she means. She means, is she going to be supported by the same people that confronted her, that gave her the issues, that gave her the concerns? That's the problem that we have.
She should step up.
And she should step up. And now that she stepped up, is she going to have that same support? That's the support that she needs.
Right, and that should happen for any. So I'm talking about the Ted Carrolls, because this is Ted Carroll is all about that. So I'm naming names and I'm putting it out there.
Are these people from your own party or people from other parties as well?
Well, no, I don't see it as a party issue at this level. It's not a party issue. Right, because where Republican or Democrat stand on whether or not my child is getting a good education, it means nothing. You know.
Well, I just asked because you said there were people who were telling you you had to do X, Y, and Z in order to be effective, and I'm curious. And you said, well, I want to know if these people are going to support me in my run for Board of Education because I've done X, Y, and Z. Now, when you say the politicals have told you to do this, I'm just wondering, as a matter of, you know, who I am and what my discipline is, which politicals told you to do what? Because if certain politicals who have bad intentions in mind for you are going to give you advice, of course, therefore they're not going to support you in this endeavor. So I'm just curious to know what parties the politicals who told you to do what come from.
That's neither here or there. Yeah. Actually, that's neither here or there.
I'm just curious.
But that's the curiosity of one individual. That's neither here or there. It is that she's running. It's for the education of the children. It's for better equality of the children. It shouldn't matter what party it is. But the support that she was getting when they told her that she needed to run and that they believed in her is the same support that she should be getting now. So it's neither here or there with the political.
Exactly. I believe that it's across the board.
Me too. That's what I just said.
I believe it's Republicans.
It's across the board.
It's across the board. It's the same message that parents don't care, parents are not involved, parents this, that, and the other. So, and we're hearing that in general, and it's not just, you know, the politicals. It's everybody. I mean, it's you know, and so.
Well, I'm only going based on what she has stated.
Well, that's what I'm answering you. You said who? Like which one? I'm telling you it's all.
Yeah.
I'm telling you it's all.
And basically, I want a parent sitting on the board that has the same and feels the same way that I do when it comes to education, when it comes to progressing our children to the higher level. So if you have a parent that identifies with what you want and your needs, for your children, then it shouldn't matter what party. Even though I know politics is a major key in it, but when you have to listen to the person, the individual point of view, and what they want, and what they see in the future for education when it comes to our children, that means our black children.
Right.
That's how I feel about it. And Latino children.
Too, because there's a lot of parents who believe parents
Let's
don't
say minorities.
care, you know. And so
We don't want to offend nobody.
Yeah, let's just say parents. That's
Just
what
say
it is.
But I mean, the reality
I
is,
think
the reality is Hartford is a
minority state.
Well, no, it's
City.
Democratic.
Yeah.
So
Democratic.
I mean, if you're talking about who the administration or political parties, you're really talking about Democrats. So,
And I knew that. I knew that, but I just wanted to see where you were coming from. Because, you know how it gets.
Well, Lou, so let's talk about it.
does it get?
Yeah, how does it get, my
Well, all right. I'll tell you how it gets. And this is with any, I guess, with any political game. It's like people are going to tell you the things that you need to do and have to do to be effective. But oftentimes, if the person is not coming from where you're coming from, whether that's culturally or in this scenario politically, if they don't have the same ideas and ideals as you do, they're not going to give you fruitful information. They're going to give you information to make you fail. And so I was curious to know, being that she is a Republican and this is, as she stated, a Democratic city, who are the people giving her the information, XYZ, knowing good and well she's running on a Republican ticket and she's got to worry about her party voting for her. And not only that, because this is a Democratic city, she's got to embrace Democrats. So the people who are giving her advice, I'm curious to know, what are the intentions of that advice? Because you know the situation is a Democratic city and she is in the minority politically.
But this is what clear? This is what I'm trying to buck up against, right?
Exactly.
But this
I'm not saying that that is what the case is. I'm just saying that this is a perfectly plausible scenario.
I hear you.
It's
I
a scenario.
have a question. I don't know this. I don't know this, but I wanted to just ask, on the board presently, do we know how many Republicans there are and Democrats there are, or Green Party? Do we know what the ratio is?
I don't know the breakdown at parties.
I don't know the breakdown. I know Sharon Stallings
is
working families.
It's working
Outside
families,
of that,
Democrat.
I honestly, I can't say with 100% certainty I know the other political makeup. And the only reason why I know Sharon is because that was a major thing, because she's the first. She was the first working Families Party member to be elected to the board, and that was news. So
I want to go back to this idea of, like, you know, well, this is a predominantly Democratic city, and therefore, you know, any Republican will be deemed in trouble when it's election time. I kind of disagree with that, because no, I know you're not saying that, but I hear that.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, that dialogue, that conversation you was having back and forth made me think about that, what I hear.
Yeah.
And how do we get people, specifically women of color, to start saying, well, hey, look, yeah, Naisha's a Republican, but damn, you know, she spent most of her time with Democrats, having Democratic conversation, having liberal conversation, having conversation about education, doing the work of charitable giving. And how can we begin to start saying to women of color, look, let's put her political choice to the side. What party? Because, you know, we all serve.
At the end of the day, it's about your child's education.
Exactly.
And that's all that should matter.
So, because we're mostly, I don't know about everyone in here, but I'm a Democrat.
I'm a Democrat. It's, you know, it's no shame in my game, but at the end of the day, it's about our children's future.
Exactly. So,
and it's about the competition with the rest of the world,
so
and with other countries.
So do we say Naisha, who has followed all of the rules of being an active parent in the high school and
she
whatever
has
school,
every right.
Do we as Democratic women say, well, yeah, but she's still a Republican?
It doesn't
or do we
matter.
Recognize, right? Because we do this. Let's not try to act like we don't do it, right? She's still a Republican.
But you know what? That's kind of childish Republican Democrat thing. at the end of the day, like I said, it's about what's best for your child's future. You know what I'm saying? What person best interests them, their future, their education, you know what I'm saying, their competition in the world 5 and 10 years later. Who best recognizes what parents want for their children. You know what I'm saying? These budget cuts and now there's no transportation for children. They're going to have to walk to school. There's no books. There's no pens. There's no pencils. There's no teachers. So when it comes at the end of the day, I wouldn't care if you was a Democrat or Republican.
Wasn't it men who were nominated?
Yes.
White men?
On the Democratic
side, it was white men. Right? And Hispanic men. Just a man. Right? So we had no women nominated. Not even white women, right? So what seems to be wrong with that? And so are we going to say, well, we're not going to work hard or figure out a way to get Nyesha nominated or whatever, elected because she's a Republican when we have accepted the fact that there are no women, whether it be Democrat or Republican? Go ahead.
But we still have to deal with the actual facts that there's still ignorance that does exist, and people still, they don't have to know the person to go and put up their ballot, and just because she is a Republican, they vote against that because they don't necessarily know her, but they know she's a Republican.
That's a good point.
So, but do you think it's our job to make them know her? See, this is. Go ahead, Pam. Go ahead, because I know.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, no, I'd rather you go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it is our responsibility as parents in particular, because she's running as a parent. And I think that it behooves us as parents to recognize who's out there that is going to be serving our best interests, and make the general public aware and get out there and, do exactly what we need to do to say this is our representative. It's not about whether she's a Democrat
she's a
or get right. And so that's work for us to do.
And it's time for white men to stop making the decisions of our children. It's time for white, political, Democrat, Republican, Green Party, working families, I wouldn't care who they are. It's time for them to stop making the decisions of our children and putting down and making the decision that this is what our children deserve. This is what our children are going to get. This is what our children are allowed. It's time for that to stop.
Carla, I've been hearing that, well, I don't care what color they are, long as they do right by my kids.
No, I care what color they are.
Well,
I want to see black faces on the parties and sit and making decisions about our black children. So I care what color they are. Hey, you can call me racist. I don't agree with it. You don't have enough power for that one. But I want to see our people making decisions about our children. At the end of the day, that's what I want to see.
How do you feel, Miss Shelley? You feel?
Because it's up to us as parents to help teach our kids and educate our kids, and it starts at home. And the political party has always had their hands in our children's education, and that's why you see so much chaos now. So I think it's like not Republican, Democrat, Green Party, or whoever. It's about parents teaching the kids first and going from that point.
Well, let's ask Kayla, because she's young. This is my baby. Okay, she's young, but she's sharp. What do you think, like, for younger people, do they pay attention to these type of elections, or do you think that only when, that Barack thing really got people, geared up, and young people, are they constantly thinking about, like, elections? Especially like Board of Education, and if not, what are we as adults doing wrong? Like, why haven't we, outside, let's put Barack aside, let's look at local politics. Why haven't we been able to tap into your age bracket, that 18 to 24, 25? What happens?
It's not brought up. Like, we don't talk about that. We didn't talk about big elections. So I feel like if it was like, if you guys can come to our school, like, they can be more educated about it, because they really don't care. Like, in school, like, we do talk about, like, how there needs to be more education, needs to be improved, but as an election, they don't hear about that they don't hear about that stuff, and they don't care unless it's the big election for the presidents. That's when they really get involved, and a lot of them didn't start getting involved until this year, when Barack Obama was running. I know all the other years, I'm sure none of them cared about voting or anything, but they did start to get involved now.
So what was the difference between the nomination for Barack that made younger people want to get out there and vote between any other candidate, like Bill Clinton? Bill Clinton was a strong candidate. He was a good president. He served 2 terms. So what was the difference between Bill Clinton and Barack Obama that made young people want to get out there and vote? Was it just because it was an African American nominated for the presidency, or
that he was a minority? But at the same sense, me personally, I didn't want to vote for a person just because he was an African American. That sparked my interest, but I also wanted to see what he was about. And when they seen that he was a community organizer and that he was for the people and all the things that he represented, that's what sparked their more interest. Like, okay, he has to get into office because he has our best interest in hand, so he has to get into office. So we had voter registration forms during NAACP and BSU. They had it throughout the day. We had rallies and everything. Like, young people did get involved, and I feel like they would get involved with these things too if they were engaged in it.
Basically what you're saying is Barack Obama, not that he was an African American, but that he was engaged in organizing and non-profit organizations is what made the younger generation look at him more, is that he kind of understood where you guys were going and where you wanted to go. Being that he was organizing, he started out in organizing first, so being that you can identify with that, being that you went through Blue Hills as a young leader organizer, so that y'all can identify with that much better. I mean, what was it that he brought to the table that made you want to vote for him?
I just felt like the fact that he wants, universal health care, and he wanted to improve education, and like that's Barack Obama. Like, the program that I'm in now, CRT, is because of the funding that he gave to us. And I just felt like I agreed more with him than McCain. Yeah, I forgot his name.
Well, I want to shout out, go ahead.
On that same note, I think personally, from speaking to a lot of younger kids, and not just black kids, I spoke to a lot of white kids who voted for him as well. He spoke to the people. He did not speak to the color or to the sex or gender or class or anyone. He spoke to the people. So when he went out and talked, he didn't just talk to you because you were black. He spoke to this person because he knew they had something to gain from what he was trying to bring too. So I think the fact that he was a community organizer, and the fact that he didn't look at people as a color vote or just a minority vote, he was all for the younger generation, and what he spoke was a lot towards the younger generation. And I think that's why overall a lot of younger people voted for him, is because they felt like, okay, he's talking to me about my future. He's not talking to the people who already lived their future and have done their duty or whatever. He's talking to me about my future and where I can be 20 years from now when it comes time for the world to take that turn and all the other older people to move along and stuff like that. So I think that's what I got from a lot of younger people, is that it felt like,
and to jump on that, and that's true, because it's about the future, and our children are the future. The younger ones coming up now, so they have to be taught, and the older generation paved the way and still paving the way for them, the future.
Well, that's why I was glad that I seen on the front of the paper that Senator Chris Dodd was clear.
Yeah. Big up to Dodd.
Big up to Dodd.
Big up to Dodd.
Because if you do follow politics, and as an organizer, I do. Because whoever gets elected affect how I get funded and affect how my issues get rolled out. So again, I will say, organizing cannot have this disconnect totally from politics. We have to understand politics because it affects the work that we do. So I was happy to see, it affects the work that we do.
That's an excellent point, because that message needs to hit to every Hartford resident. And just because we're talking about the Board of Education, this group of 9 are affecting you directly.
Direct.
Every decision that they make, every vote that they take, yay or nay, is affecting you.
Yes.
So it matters.
And so the record matters,
Yes.
right? And this is why I raised the issue and brought Dodd into this conversation, because if we look at Dodd's record,
That's right.
right? Never mind this nonsense about his
nonsense
house
that they're talking.
and all of this, because if you understand how politics works, you know, they weren't happy when Barack got elected, so what the pressure comes down on our senators, right? So we have to look at their record. So Dodd's record is spotless
It's
when we
impeccable.
talk, impeccable when we talk about women of color and health care and education
Childcare.
and daycare and child care. You know, these are the things. So when we talk about elected officials, I want to be clear that parties, that even sometimes race and gender becomes tricky. Because if you allow yourself just to hear how they have been demonizing Senator Dodd, one would believe that this man haven't done anything.
Right.
And he had
Anything for women of color, for nobody.
And he
right?
saved a lot of people in Connecticut's houses with this housing crunch. They're worried about what he's doing with his house, but he saved a great number of single women households from going into foreclosure just this year alone.
Exactly.
Just this year alone.
Even with this year with the college thing, with making sure that your kids, if they're under 21, don't get a credit card. You know what I'm saying? That causes them to go in debt.
Oh, yeah, that
and
was
have to pay them.
big.
That's Christopher Dodd's piece right there.
Yes.
That Obama signed into law. So when people try to desecrate, and I say desecrate, Senator Dodd.
Well,
You know what
I
I'm
want
saying?
us to make sure that we understand that he's going to have a congressional race coming up, and he has a stiff race. I mean, senatorial race coming up, and he's going to have a steep hill, and that is somebody that women of color need to be thinking about too. You got a young guy who comes out of his camp, right? So you know he come out of his camp. Right now is not the time to be really, you know, some of our good senators ain't no time to be taking some of our seasoned senators away.
Right.
So that's something that we have to be very mindful of. So I wanted to say directly to Mr. and Mrs. Dodd that we're glad, Senator Dodd, that we're glad that he's been cleared, and let's not be fearful that he has cancer, because we all know that
Right.
that
I want to tell the story I told you. I'm not going to name names though.
No, that's okay. We only so I want us to think about that, but let's get back on. But I just thought about that because I read the newspaper, and it's all connected. Who we need to vote for, who's going to be there for us. These type of things we have to make linkage to, right? When we talk about local politics, let's not forget to talk about on the federal side. Let's not forget to talk about the state side, because it affects everything that we do locally. You know, so we need somebody, Dodd, who already has established relationship with us and haven't burnt those relationships. He hasn't done no damage, you know, worthwhile us to be like outcasting him, right? And I'm not, you know, in the Republican, the Republican hasn't showed me anything, and the other guy comes out of his camp. Surely his time will come, but I don't think he's ready yet. So we should be thinking about like our candidates and our who we are going to choose or may not choose critically. So this is why I want us to really, really, really consider looking at our own agenda. And so what I'm suggesting is that we come up with an action plan, and that we make a commitment at least two times a month, because it's enough of us and we're growing all the time. We're already probably 15, 20 women who come through, where we say, how do we, and we can look at this as a means to getting healthy, right? How do we get out and get on some doors? Because the fact of the matter is that nothing's gonna change until we get on doors. I can't get no 150 people out to my meeting unless I do or not. The flyer thing don't work. Public access don't work. It is the doors. And so if we want to like really decide who is going to be that person, whether it be a woman or a man or not, whoever it may be, if we're going to decide, then we have to start going out to these houses and say, look, this is what this person's record looks like. And this is what we have to offer. It is time. Change didn't just happen at the presidential election. We need to change everything. Our city is falling apart. We got schools that's just falling apart. I'm a swimmer. I'm worried because in the fall I can't swim at Polk Park because the pool is a mess. You got incomplete projects at all of the schools. John Motley been chipping away, getting something situated, but how? He walked into a mess. So how do we, I mean, really, I want to hear from other women about like our commitment level to really like bringing in our own like candidates and making sure that this support sees them through and that they get elected, so that way we'll have a voice on that, on any commission, council, in the Senate or whatever, and then there's accountability that can happen. So how do you guys, I mean, do you think it's effective that we decide and agree to days, and it can rotate, right? Because we all are parents, we're all mothers and employers and wives and sisters or whatever may have you, pastors, and you know, we a lot of things, women of color. And so when we asking to put one more thing on your plate, that's when you have to be real with yourself. Because if in fact we agree that this is the time that we set our own agenda, then history has shown us we have to work for anything we want. So what does that work look like? You know, I'm coming up with the ideas of door knocking. PM, what do you think? What is
I think that, I don't know if all the women here are on the same page.
Okay.
You know, and really understanding exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I have some questions, you know, in terms of what the intention is, you know, of the women of color. I need to know that first, and I don't know if everybody else is aware of that, you know. I can say that I'm definitely for educating ourselves on any candidate that, you know, is running, just because we need to know this information. And if it is decided, and I don't know if it's decided, that then we are one body here, people of color, that is, you know, going to have like a, what is it, some kind of political, I'm not sure.
Well, I don't want to use the word political, because we're community, right? Yes. So that's now, a very sticky, we're community. However, we have no representation. We have representation, but we have established that we don't have a voice, right? Because they there, but who they speaking for, I still haven't figured that part out. So you raise a good question. The voices of women of color, first intention was just to get together and have a conversation, right? But then through these conversations, we realize that it's only so much conversation you can have before you act, if change really will happen, right? And so given from the last episode of what happened, given that now we have all of these women of color who are going to take a risk, how do we begin supporting them in their risk taking on these different positions that they're taking? Do we just say we're going to leave them to figure out what it is and just conversate about it? Or do we say, what if in fact we're a body and we're a woman of color, how do we support them and what does that support look like? So that's why I'm saying, for me, one of my ideas would be, let's go out and just educate people about who the candidates are, what they have, and figure out if they're registered to vote. Then when election time comes, they have a choice.
Yeah, I think that's important. But I just want to make sure that if we're calling ourselves now in this space, the women here, the women of color, then we, as the women of color, need to understand, we need to be on the same page, or at least understand the different perspectives, because I'm not sure if we all agree, you know, on, I don't know, you know, what the, I don't know what, wait a minute, I don't,
raising a good point.
I just don't know what other people's political position is. You know, I don't know what it is they're looking for.
That's right.
You know, so for me to come here into a conversation and then all of a sudden now I'm a part of a political movement, that's two different things. Am I saying I don't want to be a part of a political movement of women of color? Of course not.
Of course.
But I need to be clear about that, and I need to be clear about who I am getting into partnership
Absolutely.
with.
Absolutely.
You know,
and I want
this
other
is like,
women
to me, that's our first work.
That's the first work.
And then we have to move from there.
That's right.
Because it has to begin with a conversation. And yes, sometimes the conversations have to continue even though things are going. Because I have jumped in many a times here trying to, you know, move forward something because this was coming up. This was a crisis. That was a crisis. And we couldn't accomplish anything because we didn't have the conversations.
That's
you know,
right.
we weren't all in agreement.
That's
We,
right.
you know, we didn't all choose the same people
That's
to
right.
that spoke our voices. So
That's right.
we definitely need to do that, establish that, and I think some trust
That's
comes
right.
from that place.
That's right.
You know, and those are important things. And sometimes, you know, in doing that, the crises, you know, have to be set aside. And you do that individually or in the groups that you are already a part of. Okay, so that's where that's where I'm at now.
I think that's critical. And Tracy, you was gonna say something too. What you was gonna say? I think Pam raises a critical point, and I too would be interested in hearing from the other women on how they view getting in, like from a community perspective, understanding how politics work and actually engage in their community to then bring that information out loud. But I want to make very, very clear that the voicing of women of color, we are community people, but I think that we have spent a lot of times shunning politics, and therefore we have not allowed ourselves to understand what they really mean to us as a community. And that I think that given that we've had a lot of people come out on Barack, I don't want to lose that momentum. And I don't want it, specifically given the fact that this city is in crisis. And so my fear is the issues that you raise when I have these conversations. Well, how committed will we be? And will we all agree on the candidates? And will it be a problem if we don't? Would it be healthy that we don't?
I have a question. With all that said, would it be such a bad thing if you didn't agree on a candidate, but as a community, you should have opposing opinions? You know what I mean? Because not everyone is going to agree. I mean, everyone have, exactly. So I guess my question is even if there was no agreement, to me it could still work, because I think it would be good to have two opposite opinions or two opposite views on something, because it always works out better. A community, a lot of people in the community, to me, don't know or are not well informed on a lot of the situations or how things affect them. So I think you probably may need to inform them or give them, educate them on a lot of the things that go on and why they need to be doing this, or the issues. Did you know that this is taking place? And then from there, get their understanding of what they feel they need, and maybe someone else from your community grouping or conversation can step in and assist them in what they feel they need, because it's not what you think your views are on the politics or whatever it is. So that's my understanding. I'm always thinking on both sides.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, just what I was hearing when Janice was asking that question or putting that out there was, you know, this is not every woman of color in the city of Hartford. And I think very easily each of us have a group of people that we associate with and we talk to, and that's it. Kind of what you were saying, that's where it starts. You know, how many people that you associate with know that there's a Board of Education election in November? Exactly. And that's right. Yeah.
I might need to be educated. When you come to me, I wouldn't be so disappointed to have someone come to me and educate me on a lot of the things that was happening. Granted, I don't have kids in the system, but I still have nieces and nephews that may be going into the system or are already in the system, and I want to make sure they get a good education as well. So I wouldn't be mad if somebody came to inform me, but then if I had a different view than that person who's informing me, if they can put me with somebody who may be seeing my views a little more, that would be even more beneficial to me.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, that's what Pam raised a critical point, because she does community work like me. Like, every woman in this room mostly is community conscious, and these are real issues she's raising. Like, well, wait a minute, I don't really know if, you know, the voices of women of color, what is the agenda, what would we do, will we all trust each other, right? And these are real, that's a real conversation, like, to have, right? Because there are times where we have differences, right? But how will we know if we don't try, right? Like when do we, I mean, the conversations can continue, but are we willing to not take the risk of implementing something that, even like right now, like while we're all here, let's agree on something small, right? Where everyone can agree on something small. Like, it start off with something small, because the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking, and I don't know how much longer our kids can wait, how much longer our pocketbooks could take on the taxes, the cost of uniforms, the transportation for schools. It's like a whole array of new issues that's going to come up in September, and black women are going to be like, what the hell going on? I got 4 kids and I got to put them all on a bus?
Well, frankly, I'm so disappointed in the school system. You know, we worked really hard to get our son into a school that he needed to be in, to get his needs met, because they were completely being ignored in the Hartford public school system. And I am completely, you know, disappointed with it, and to the degree I'm almost ready for it to just implode or explode, so that we can begin again, so that we can create something new. Because I'm torn. I mean, to put energy into this antiquated, you know, old, big, bulky thing that doesn't work and it doesn't fit. It was never, you know, created for our children, you know, and now we're at disaster point. So I mean, I'm conflicted, you know, as to whether I should keep working at that or just let it all go, you know, and put my energy into something that I know will work.
Well, that's where
I don't know if I know it will work, but I definitely believe it deserves a chance, because I've given you all these years. I mean, 20-something years I've been involved with the public school systems, and they're just, you know, getting increasingly worse. Now, I've done some background, done some history, some looking at the history now, and I can understand why. It was never intended for, it was never created for our children to do anything but be manageable.
Yes.
In this society. And so it's becoming more and more of that. We're seeing less and less of education. It's not even education, it's schooling. It's schooling. That's what they're getting, schooling, which is a training, which is not education. You know, the mind is not being excited. It's being controlled. And so I'm really torn as to whether I should put a lot of energy racing up a hill that, you know, and everything is crumbling. I'm running toward the trade centers. Should I do that? Or, you know, or should I look at other models and you know, and say, this definitely seems like something that needs my attention, at least. So that's where I'm at.
I think that you make an excellent point, but I want to get back to Mika's point, because I think she made an excellent point too. I think part of what we have to do, because we all do have different opinions and, you know, different needs and different expectations of what we want our lives to be and our children's lives to be, but because we all do share several commonalities, we have to first educate ourselves about how this political thing works and how we can use this political thing to, if not fulfill all of our individual needs, but in this is something that's really prevalent in political theory. See who we can get elected to do the most good for the most people.
That's what I'm talking
about. And that's what we
I'm
have a unique opportunity to do here. We may not agree, you know, Naisha is a Republican, I'm a independent, I'm a Working Families Party member at this time. And we may not agree about how to interpret the separation of church and state. You know, maybe Naisha thinks it's okay to praise Jesus and when we salute the flag, and I don't. But I think we both can agree that the minimum wage in the state of Connecticut sucks, and, you know, the Hartford school system is failing our children. So, you know, I'm not, as a constituent and as a voter, I'm not going to vote for the person who maybe you know, promotes my church and state separation ideals when I've got to worry about feeding my children. You know what I'm saying? So if we can find some commonality, and one of the things I would suggest, because Janice raised a good question about how do we get to that next level, Janice does a wonderful leadership training. You know, organizing and being actively involved in your community gets politicians' attention because they know you are the people who are out there talking to other people and the people who vote. And I would suggest that if we're really serious about sort of sifting out the best candidates that will do the most good for what our collective agenda is to start by having, you know, maybe monthly workshops about how politics works.
See, but my issue is, you know, you're talking about going to another level, and I'm not sure we're at any level.
Well, that's the point of the workshop. So that
no, but the workshop is to direct and create a mindset for a particular process, you know, for voting, right?
For analyzation.
Okay.
For analyzation, it would serve a few functions.
All right.
It would bring everyone up to speed so that when we're engaging in these political discussions, and I use a vocabulary word, I'm trying to answer you. I think one of the major functions of such a workshop would bring everybody up to at least some core level so that we understand the political dialogue that is going on in the city and why we as women of color are being shut out. If you can't get to that core level, you're going to constantly be shut out. And that would be one of the core functions of a workshop of that nature.
I hear what you're saying. Did you hear what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
What did you hear me say?
Pam is good for that.
She did it to me earlier. She did it to me. I can't repeat your words.
Pam, I want to hear what you had to say.
No, okay. I want to know, because what I'm sitting here and I'm hearing you continue to talk about going to another level, but I don't hear you reflecting back to me that you're hearing me saying that I don't know if we're at any level. I came here for a conversation, not for the next level. I don't even, you know what I mean? Not that I'm not open to it.
Talk about like today,
but
Pam, hold up. Let me interject.
You know what I mean?
I don't think that today.
I'm not anti.
When we're talking about, when we say how do we get to the next level, how do we begin door knocking, we don't mean today. And when I say if we can all agree today, that's me trying to get us to a place where we're moving to a certain place, to a same page. So I don't want you to think that you've come for a conversation and that you're gonna leave with something on your plate. But we don't. But when we have these conversations, it's more than a conversation. Once the camera go off, there's action to be had. But given that we have black women who are actually going to be running for these positions, and that the voices of women of color come out of this idea of supporting black women and giving them the benefit of the doubt and not having this ongoing dialogue about it, but doing, and in the midst of doing, having conversations about our differences and our similarities. And so I wanted to say that, because I don't, one thing, and this is for everybody, I don't want anybody to feel when they come to the Voices of Women of Color to have a conversation that they're going to leave with a homework assignment. It will be put out there, and you can come to any conversation, but those who will sign on and they move.
And make the change in the conversation that we're talking about.
You know what? I'm in complete agreement. I think that this is wonderful that we're gathering women of color in one space, coming together, and I love the fact that there's different women coming, you know, and having conversations with each other. I mean, that's powerful in this place. Since I've been here, you know, that's not really happened like that. I mean, it's because of the culture. The culture is very, again, like I said, very individualistic. And so people are kind of unto themselves doing their own thing. So anytime we have opportunities as women of color to come and be in the same space and talk to each other, I think I celebrate that. I really do. But I've also been in too many processes, I'm going to call it, where we were trying to do a thing, accomplish a thing, work for school, you know, make sure people get vote and all of that, and we didn't do our first work, and it just completely fell apart. We did not, and you know some of this stuff, and I don't want to continue to perpetuate that. If you keep doing the same thing and expecting something different, I mean, you know, that's like, I call it insanity or something. And I don't want to do that. It's a waste of my energy, for sure. I want to be a part of something where I am clear we are all on the same page, and I am clear that we are all committed, and I am clear that we have a vision, you know, an agreed upon vision, you know. And for now, to me, it's like we are in the process of doing, for me, it feels like we're doing the gathering. It's kind of, I'm going to say, because I've experienced what I've experienced before in this setting, but it's a bit, I'm a bit cautious when we're going too fast, when we're not doing that.
Well, see, but probably because this is your first setting.
Absolutely, it's my first one. That's my point.
I think it's good because the way we're conversating now is giving us all a chance to feel each other, to get to know each other, and see where everybody's coming from, so that we all can be on that same page and work towards the same goal. You know, it's like we're feeling each other. You know, so it's not like we're making a great big decision today. No. We're conversating, you know, women of color, getting to know each other. You know, it's good. You know, because I mean, where I'm from, I'm in the middle of Hartford, and there's all kind of chaos. I mean, it's all around Hartford. But like when you're in the center of it, you know, there's so much negativity there. And it's like, you know, the people mindset, they're not on sister gatherings. You know, it's all about, you know, selfishness, negativity. And where do you go from that point when you're in the midst of it? When you have groups like this, it's good because it gives you a chance to voice your opinion and to see where other sisters are coming from. You know, this is something that you don't see. You don't hear it. And like you said, there have been other organizations that you became a part of that led nowhere. You know, so we need to follow each other and learn from each other, you know, and give to each other. You know, and this potential. And I
wanted to treat the potential.
Tracy. I just want to be clear. I just want to touch bases on what you were saying, Pam. We're not recruiting anybody. We already have a team of women in place. They're ready to get out here, register as many people as we can to vote. So we're not recruiting anybody. But if they do come to the Voices of Women of Color and they want to be on board, the more the merrier. But at this point, we don't need to recruit anybody because we have a team in place. We're all on the same page. And we're going to make this effort. We're going to do what we have to do. Everything that we have put into place is gonna work. We've done things like this in the past. We're already on the ground, you know, grassroots style, you know, doing that organizing thing, and so far so good. So we already have a team of women, like I said, that's on board with us and ready to go out there and, like I said, register people to vote. But whoever is interested, whoever wants to join us, we welcome them, but we're not here to like recruit people. We're here to have conversations and dialogue and speak, speak our mind and just have a good time and eat and drink wine and just enjoy.
thank you. because
You're
I didn't know-
welcome.
I didn't know that the Voices of Women of Color had a group that was doing all of this.
Well,
you
those
know.
conversations usually happen off the camera, Pam. But you
Yes.
so community conscious, honey. Yeah, but see, we have to remember Pam been doing this work that we've all been doing, and you get your behind handed to you.
That's right.
And so when you walk in and somebody tell you it's a conversation, and all of a sudden you hear Gina say, "Well, how do we do it now? Can't we all agree here right now?" You like, wait a minute.
I didn't sign on.
I ain't signed up for that. But that's my way, right? Because I'm an organizer. I've been doing this for 15 years.